Hey, what's good, y'all? I hope y'all are doing well. Listen, today we're going to be talking about this fool right here, my first custom armor build. So let's get into it. All right, y'all. First of all, shout out to y'all for tuning in today. This is my third time recording this because I can't seem to figure out what exactly that I'm doing. And hopefully take 3 is the one, right? So I have a script that I'm going to go by, an outline, because it's helpful for me. Otherwise, I'll run off into tangents and we'll be here for hours. If you guys saw the thumbnail or you saw the intro, you would know that we're going to be talking about the GM Sniper 2 build. This is my first custom armor build that I've ever done, and there was a lot of learning that went into this, as well as research and application, and I thought that it would be cool to just share my journey, what I learned, the tools that I used, everything from inception, the ideation, and execution, competition. So there's a lot of issues there. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. If I miss anything, my bad. I don't know. I'm not really used to this. But if you have any comments or questions down below throughout the time that you guys are checking this out, go ahead and feel free to hit me in the comment section below. So here's how the idea of this kit came about. It was originally going to be a kit bash between a Jagan and a GM Sniper 2, and it was to prepare for a competition that was going to happen a month out. And I started actually doing research 2 months out. So I already had this idea back in November, December 2025, and the competition was going to be in February. So I had a couple months, right, to kind of process, research, learn, test out, because there was a lot of testing that I needed to do, and then execute, right? Just go in for the build. So the preparation for this, the idea came about for prepping for my next competition. Now, this is only my third competition that I'm participating in, and there's always the last 2. I just learned so much already. So the reason why I do competitions, it's because I want to meet new builders. I think it's dope to just meet new people and also hear from the people that are there that have been in the game for a while. I mean, you're going to learn some dope tips, some stuff that you've never even heard of. You're going to see great kits, not just Gunpla, but, anything that has to do with, for instance, IPMS. This is the competition that I went to. Anything that has to do with like that war genre or military genre. Super dope work from those guys. So I was preparing for this competition that was happening, and the idea was to kit bash both a Jagan and a GM Sniper 2. This is going to be my first time that I was going to be kit bashing, and I wanted to create something that was inspired by Iron Man 2. So Iron Man 2, if you guys haven't seen it, regardless of how you feel about it, you know what I'm saying? Some people didn't like the movie, some people did. I like Tony Stark, so, your boy was rocking with your boy RDJ, you feel me? Here, I'm going to pull up a reference real quick, if I can find that reference, guys. Oh, here it is. Okay, so the idea actually came from Iron Man 2, and my idea was to kit bash both the Jagan and the GM Sniper and create this drone kind of look. And so it came from Iron Man 2. As you can see, there are different forces. There are different branches of the military, and I didn't know which one I was going to do quite yet, but I knew that I wanted to do a drone kind of take on it. Excuse me. And in the movie, there was a character named Hammer Industries, I believe, that created these drones in order to kind of recreate Tony Stark's suit. And so I was going to use this as inspiration, create a drone with the kit bash, and then make like a small diorama with a little, military Jeep next to it. It was almost to kind of like lean into that IPMS, the work that I've seen so far, just to kind of play into that a little bit more. And so that's where the idea for this kit came about. However, I learned very quickly that your boy's skills ain't that advanced yet. You know what I'm saying? So that was, I had these ideas. I had already started cutting up the Jagan and kind of, ticky-tack or taping the pieces where I thought that I wanted them. And the lure was going to be that it was a drone that was on the ground, active in the battlefield. And so the GM was going to be outfitted with that Jagan armor in some compartments to support with that lure. And so I had already started cutting up pieces for the Jagan, had already started test fitting, certain things. And I found out really quickly that my skills aren't quite there yet. And that was humbling experience. Also, like our ideas, right? We our ideas can be so grand sometimes, and then when we get to execution, we're like, hey, yo, I can't really do that. You know what I'm saying? So, you ever try cooking something that you've never cooked before? You know what I'm saying? I guess you got to follow the instructions, but that's besides the point. So I quickly realized that kit bashing probably wasn't going to be the move. You know what I'm saying? And so I ended up going with just customizing the GM Sniper 2, and that's what we were going to rock with. So then it shifted to just customizing the GM Sniper 2, and then I thought about, all right, cool. Well, what's the lore to this kit? And basically, what I was thinking about was it has a dope inner frame. If you guys ever have built the GM Sniper 2, this is an MG, by the way. I mean, I'm sure you can tell, but the MG Sniper 2, this kit, the inner frame. It's a 2.0 inner frame. I'm new to the hobby too, so I'm learning. So correct me if I'm wrong. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna get upset at y'all. 2.0 inner frame. The details in the inner frame were just really clean and super dope, and I really like the inner frame. And so my idea was to still try to customize the GM, and how the story shifted was it was no longer, well, it was going to be some sort of drone, I think. And it was going to actually be more for covert operations. So then the lore switched from like on the battlefield to how can I outfit this guy to where he's like a special operations unit, right? He's pulled off of the line of the, what is it called? Like the production line. He's sent to, these kind of higher authorities, and they are the ones that are outfitting him for kind of black ops operations. Black ops operations? Is that just like operations? But you know what I mean. So he was going to be more covert operations. There we go. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to highlight some of that inner frame. Now, I've never done something like this, and so the first thing that I started doing after I knew that I couldn't do the kit bash was more research on the GM Sniper 2. And here I'm going to show you guys two inspirations of mine that I found online. Because they are not my ideas, but I wanted to share them with you because I thought that this was great as far as the research component is concerned, and then seeing how other builders are doing it, so that way I can try to do something like that. So, before I pull that up, so the idea, the lore was that special operations unit, I knew I wanted to highlight that inner frame and the pistons, like it's super clean. And so I knew that I wanted to take off armor. Now, the reason why I'm taking off armor, right, to match the lore is so that way he's faster. So there are smaller pieces of the armor that's taken off, as you can see, and we'll do a walkthrough of the kit in general, but there are pieces of armor that is taken out, and that's supposed to make him faster. So that was the idea, at least. And I know that he's got some extra weight in other places, but I tried to offset that same idea throughout the build. So that's what I was going with. Also, if it doesn't make sense to you, that's all right. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be accurate either. I think that the way that I want to build it, I want to have a story attached to the build, and also make sure that it can be real, as well as I still want to be able to be it to be a fantasy, right? I know that it's not going to be real, and so I still want to lean into that creative part also, if that makes sense. So I'm not going to be completely accurate, guys. I don't know anything about any of the series. I don't know how to pluralize that. But like I said, because I'm new to the hobby and new to the whole space, but I really enjoy building, and so I just kind of created my own lore based on kind of what I was building out. So don't hate on your boy. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at you. All right. Here we go. So I stripped away armor to make them faster. And then we'll kind of go from there. So here is the inspiration, two points of inspiration for me. So I went on to Google and I just searched like MG GM Sniper 2 builds, custom work, and it kind of pulled up this website, and I forgot what website it is, but I think it's like Gundam something. I don't know. I forgot. Anyway, so I found this guy by Gundam Odinson. Super clean build. So dope. So as you can see right off the bat, he has this exposed piston in the thigh, the quad, right? Quad? Yes. And I was like, cool, this is dope. It can be done. You know what I'm saying? I knew that when I saw this, it made me think exposing the armor can be done. And so I kind of ran with that idea. So as you can see on my build, I have the exposed piston in his calf. So shout out to Gundam Odinson, because that's directly from him. Once I did this, I knew that I can do the other exposed pieces. Now, they needed to be strategic, but I knew that I could do it. So super dope work. This guy's super clean. And then here is the other inspiration. So right here is by GMK and Toys. I don't know if that's the correct handle, but I'm going to give him a shout out. So as you can see on the drones that I wanted to do based on the Iron Man 2 reference, so you see how these guys right here don't have, like, they don't have a face essentially, right? Because they're drones. This guy right here has a mask on him. And I thought that was dope. And I don't know if this is from another kit, an existing kit, but I thought that this was dope. So once I saw this, I was like, all right, cool. It looks dope. I know that it can be done. I'm going to go ahead and put a mask on him to make it look more drone-like. You know what I'm saying? And then I couldn't do these. I mean, look at this work right here on this sniper rifle and this assault rifle. That's crazy. Mad talent. You know what I'm saying? And there was definitely tons of other talented builders on that website as well. So, you know, just Google it. I'm sure you can find it. So I knew that I can do this, and I was really excited about it, and that's what you see here. This is the helmet or the mask on the GM is the only, I think, one of the only other pieces that I use from the Jagan on this kit. So I don't consider that a kit bash, but that's what your boy did. This is like the foot part of the Jagan, and then I threw some plot plate on it, glued it together, etc., and then that's what it is. So not a full kit bash, but like I took a piece from it. What a guy. All right, let's move on. Next. Oh, and then this is the other, not inspiration, but like reference that I used. So as far as like panel lining and placement is concerned, what things are supposed to be looking like, and this was pretty helpful as well. I didn't really, not panel line, but also like scribing. I didn't really scribe too much. I just like rescribed some of the existing stuff, and I did like a rescribe down the crotch area. Ugh, yikes. Ugh, my mans. All right, let's go to back to my IG. All right, so that's the introduction. That's the inception. That's how this guy came about. And the lore is he's pulled off the line from manufacturing, taken to a black site, refitted, outfitted to do special operations. And this is what you got here. So as you can see, we have that snatched waist. I had seen a couple of other builders do the snatched waist. You guys can see right here, and we'll kind of do a walkthrough, but the tubing with that snatch waist, I really loved, again, that exposed armor. And let me bring this reference back up real quick. Let's see right here. Yeah. So as you can see right here, in this is waist. You know, you can see that waist unit part is missing, and there were other builders that had done this before too. And there was this piping. I watched a tutorial on how to do this kind of piping or piston work, and I immediately thought like, yo, I'm not gonna have enough time. By this time, I had already, I was already a week or two into the build, and I had about 2 more weeks to finish the build and paint it. So I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna have time to like really build this out and it be accurate, because I don't have any. Yeah, it wasn't gonna be accurate. Anyways, so I switched over to the tubes, which I thought came out dope. We're going to go ahead and walk through the build. So, and then I'll kind of share about some of the tools that I used throughout this build. So as you can see, I'm going to just kind of turn this guy here. And let's see, I'm just going to use my pencil. So here, obviously I cut these pieces out to the back to expose those pistons, which I think came out really dope. I took everything off of that ankle. There was a piece right here that I took out as well. It was already marked, so I just kind of took that piece out. Obviously, I drilled these holes in it, and then the back housing for the thrusters I took out just to expose those thrusters a little bit more. This right here is plot plate on the feet. If you can see those little toe marks, it looks like a dinosaur or whatever. Obviously, you can already see the exposed piston here, so I'm not going to go through that. And then drilled holes here to kind of mimic those same holes in the calves. Same thing on the other side. I took out these the ankle armor and the housing. And we'll go to the back real quick so you guys can see. I mean, look at that. The inner frame is just lit. That same idea that I had with the quad on the front is I took that idea and applied it to the back so I can expose some of that armor in the back as well. I took out all of the skirts around the waist, as you can see, and I just kept this part, and then I scratch built a little holder for the sniper rifle so that way it can be held. There's some, I don't know if you guys can see this, but there is, let me lift up this right here. Also cut out a piece. If I can do this, there you go. Also cut out a piece right here to expose some of that inner frame. This right here is a knife that I got from a 30-minute missions set. This knife you see here. And then these knee pads are actually part of the skirt. So that skirt armor, I just took this off, painted it, cut it down to size, and then placed it onto the knees as knee pads. Cool. Let's go ahead and move up to the waist. So as you can see, I did a snatched waist too. I took out all that armor on the on the waist, and then I built these out of ply plate, and they're like cylinder ply plate. I think like they're 1/8 of an inch, if I'm not mistaken. And then there was another one that was a little bit bigger. So that's where you have this like tubing effect, housing effect. And then this tube is actually a cord from I think it's like a HDMI cord that I took out. So did that, and it's running to the back where there's like another housing component. So I might do some close-ups here as well. So there's like another housing component where the tubes go in, and that's where I kind of got that tube. Now, once I did the tubes on here, I thought to myself, like, it looks dope, but I don't want that to be just it. So I actually added the tubing on the shoulders just to kind of add a little bit more of that, that theme that I was going for. And then on the shoulders, I added this kind of like additional armor, just to give him a little bit more shape. So shaped him out a little bit. This right here on the chest, if you guys can check it out. I don't know if I can, I'll probably zoom in or do like another close up, but right here on the chest, there is this piece that I originally went for the rifle to be holstered on the chest. Now, when I was doing research, I found out that, riflemen or snipers in the U.S. military or any type of special forces, I believe, I could be wrong, but they have what's called a 1-point sling or a 2-point sling. And in some of the videos that I was watching as I was researching, is they have this sling that wraps around them, and it allows the rifle to drop right in front. Now, the reason why they have that is because it allows them to move. But this 1-arm or 2-arm or 1-point or 2-point sling, they have the rifle, ready, they're aiming. And then for whatever reason, they're close quarters or they need to grab their sidearm, they drop their rifle, and the rifle is like this, vertical, and they grab their sidearm, and then they're ready to, aim down sight. So I kind of took that same theme early in the build and had made this not a harness, but this holder where he actually first started off with holding the rifle up on his chest, and whenever he was grabbing a sidearm or that knife, he was able to kind of pull, in that way. So that's where the inspiration came from in regards to that, and then I just kept it because I wasn't sure where I was going as far as that build is concerned. So yeah, and then the helmet, ply plate, and then the tubing. So as you can see, there's tubing, there's wire running from the mask. I actually put ply plate in the mask, made housing, kind of like your respirators that you would wear whenever you are spray painting or spraying. And then I drilled holes in there, ran wires from there into the backpack, and then into the rifle, which we'll talk about in a second. So, yeah, I guess I'll just go through this real quick. So the idea for the pack, if you guys can see it, yeah, the idea for the pack came from the wire idea. So it started with the wires in the waist, and I wanted to carry that same theme. And so what I did was I was like, it'd be dope to have wires running. So I ran the wire from the mask into the chest first. And I thought, it doesn't look good, right? The silhouette didn't look that great. And so I thought, I need to change that to go in another direction. And so I was actually chopping it up with a buddy of mine, Gunpla. He's super dope, but we were chatting back and forth. He's in the UK. And I was like, hey, dude, I have this idea for these wires, you know what I'm saying? And he's just like, we're just talking through it. And he was like, you know what would be dope? If you actually ran the wires from the mask. One wire would run from the mask directly into the sniper rifle, and that would be a direct link to targeting services. Targeting services, I don't know if that's the thing. And the other one would be linked to this like reactor he was talking about, and then from the reactor into the butt of the rifle, and that's for power. And I was like, that's dope. Like I never would have thought about that. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I love about the community. It's that, you know, you chop it up with so many different people online. You know what I'm saying? And just the amount of experience they even have, or understanding that they have about builds in general, and the lore or the series or the anime, and how it kind of comes about. And so I don't know if you guys saw that, but I froze. So I think the system overheated, and I'm going to try my best to start off where I left off, which I think I was sharing about how Gundam Gunpla was kind of walking me through the idea of these wires. And so shout out to you, brother. You know what I'm saying? Really appreciate you kind of walking me through that. And then after that, I just executed, right? So, all right, guys. So you guys might hear a little bit of noise. Our kids are going to be moving around in the background. So, yeah. Let's keep it running. Yeah, I'm a dad. You know what I'm saying? This is the life. You feel me? And I love it. And I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it for nothing. You feel me? All right, here we go. So if you hear some goo goo gagas in the back, that just means that they're saying, "Go, daddy, go." All right. The reactor. So I'll go through supplies as well. So the reactor was actually a 30-minute missions as well. It was like a Gatling gun it was like a drum for a Gatling gun. I think it was like armor or ammo. I took that, filed it, sized it, and then this plot plate right here, these cylinder tubes were, again, I think 1/8 of an inch tubing. Took that, put plot plate at the ends of it, glued it together. Waited for it to dry, cut around it, sanded it down so it looked more cylinder-like and more like a tube, and then painted it, ran the wires in, and then those wires from the reactor go into the butt of the rifle. Now, the rifle, I did a little bit of custom work on it as well. As you can see, it has this one I went straight for like a Call of Duty vibe, you know what I'm saying? And I remember when the Car 98 was just murking fools, and this was a learning experience too. I don't know how to paint or customize weapons, y'all. This is wild. So I just threw a monolithic suppressor. Let's get the loadout right. I just added. It's been a minute since I played a Warzone, but hang in with me for all my Warzone heads. Kept the original optics. I did a kind of like another. I added some plot plate here. I added some plot plate here to hold. For holding. This right here is a piece to holster on the back of him. Remember that piece that I put in the back to holster the back of him, and then I put the AR actually ammo and clip into this. So I created this little housing out of that as well. And then I added some more stuff on this side, another scope for close range. So if there was an enemy that was a little bit closer, he didn't need that long distance, scope. He used a shorter distance scope, you know what I'm saying? So he can, just clean targets. So that was that. And then if you guys can see here, there is a sidearm. Let's see. You can see that. Sidearm right here. The sidearm I actually made from the original AR, his original sidearm that he had, which was, I don't know, it was like a bull whip or something like that. I took that, I sawed it down, added plot plate, added a suppressor, and then painted it, threw some decals on it, and this is what you get. So let me see if I can take this off. I can't remember if I glued this on or not. No, I didn't. This is what you get right here. You guys can see it. Oops. I added the sights on it, the suppressor, shot off the back. ply plate to make it look more like a sidearm. So that's what we got here. And then obviously kept his beam sabers. All right, cool. So this is the build. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, I would definitely encourage you guys to do that. This is where I'm going to be obviously showing more of the process of builds that I'm working on, everything that I'm learning, everything that I'm walking through, all the research that I'm doing. It also has just a bunch of fun stuff on there that I love to do. So it's just like a mixture of, like I said, I'm a husband, I'm a father. Those things come first in my life. And I love building and I love creating and I love learning. And so you'll see a lot of that in my Instagram. So if you don't follow me, go ahead and follow me there just to pull up for the journey. You know what I'm saying? Build community and grow. It's super dope. And this is where you'll see a lot of the builds and posts and collabs that I have the opportunity to do. So here is what we have. Everything in white is obviously going to be that plot plate. So you can definitely go ahead and check out all that plot plate work online. This is the rough draft. So after I did all of this, I waited a day, I think a day or two, and I just sat back and watched, just like, not watch, but like looked at the build. I didn't want to rush it. And so what I did was I took a step back and I just kind of let it sit there for a little bit to make sure that I was comfortable with moving forward and that was it. So I got to this point where I thought to myself, all right, cool. I think I'm satisfied with the silhouette look and build as far as its compatibility with the lore. And I let it sit there for a little bit. And then whenever I came back, I was like, all right, cool. I'm comfortable with it. This feels good to me. And so you can keep moving forward. So then after this is whenever I started tightening up those other parts. So as you can see, like it's very squared off right here in the bottom. Very squared off right here. I hadn't added that second piece yet. All of the tubing is a little bit squared off as well. Let me see if I can move around. All of these tubes are those cylinder plot plates that I cut down a size. These are very rough on its edges, and so I sanded each of these down individually. Same thing with the stock of the rifle. Built this in, had it, went back and touched up everything else just to make it look more uniform. Oh, and then obviously you can see the shield right here, which is I cut in half and then just made it, smaller, again, more lightweight. But here's the reactor pack. Let me see if I got the tubing. So the tubing's here. And then you can see the color of the Jagan foot. That's so funny to me. And then we got this. So let's see if that's, then we got this guy here. That was pretty much it as far as the build is concerned. I threw a couple of more pieces, as you can see, on the chest and the crotch area. This is wherever I tried to panel line and it didn't work out. And so I was like, all right, I'm just going to stick some plot plate in there and it'll make sense. And I think that it came out dope. Happy little accident is what Bob Ross would say, probably. I think. I don't know. I saw the meme. Anyways, all right. So Instagram, definitely check it out. Pull up for the journey. So now we're going to talk about the tools and stuff that I used. Obviously, everything that you're going to need is your basic nippers and stuff. So I'm not going to really, go too deep into that. But I use a Madworks nipper and a single blade nipper and a God Hand single blade nipper as well. And then I use your regular like hobby nipper. Obviously, you take it off, you cut it off the runner, and then you do a cleaner cut with a single blade nipper. The saw work, like to cut out all of those pieces inside the legs and the units and saw off the shin guards and stuff like that. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna draw a square. This is just to give you an idea of kind of how I was thinking about cutting all the sawed off parts. All right, so here we go. Here's what we got. So this is the idea that, let's say this is the armor, right? And I want to keep this stuff right here. Right, this stuff. Let's see. I want to keep this stuff. The mirroring effect is weird. All right, so I want to keep this stuff. So the dotted line is where I want to cut, knowing that I'm gonna sand it actually down to here, if that makes sense. So when you can't even see it. So the dotted line is where I'm gonna saw. Now there's a thickness to that saw, and it depends. So whenever there is thicker armor or bigger armor plates that I'm going to be cutting out for, like, for instance, the calf, or not the calf, the quad, I use this regular hobby saw. which is thicker, and it's going to, cut thicker into that armor piece. So when I use this, I'm cutting on the dotted line first, knowing that I'm actually going to sand down to where that thicker line is at, if that makes sense. So I always gave myself room when I was doing the cutting, always. For more of a precision cut, I use these MadWorks kind of thin blades. These are great. I definitely recommend these. The hobby one that I picked up from the hobby store, not too great. I had to file everything down afterwards, but I made sure that I left room for myself in order to do that. So that was definitely a learning process. And rule of thumb, whenever I was doing the kind of like the exposed armor bits. And so I always, basically the rule of thumb is always saw off, for me, is what I learned. Correct me, you let me know in the comments what you do. But I sawed off almost to where I want that armor. I sawed off almost to where I wanted it to give me some room, so that way I can file it down to the actual spot that I want it to be at. So a lot of that filing came from this razor. Definitely recommend. Super dope tool. I use it all the time. I have the big one, and then I have that thinner one. And then obviously I'm gonna have like my sanding sticks, right, from Display. Yeah. And then I have everything from your basic 180 grit to 2500 grit. And these are actually super dope. They come in handy a lot, especially on the custom work that was done on this kit. Definitely smoothed out some things for sure. And this thing too. So these guys, these files, you see these I picked up on Amazon, I believe. These worked amazingly. So what I would do first is I would saw first. If y'all saw what I did. No? Okay. Let's move on. And then after I sawed them, I hit them with a file just to kind of file it down to where I wanted it. And then after the file, I would either smooth it out with the razor or I would go with the sanding sticks from Display. And depending on where I was at would depend on the grit. And then obviously you go down to grit to smooth it out closer to the end. So there's kind of like that part of it. My pencil was absolutely pivotal pencil, you know what I'm saying? And obviously I drew on the kit to make sure that I was marking it so I knew where it was that I wanted to saw, erase it if I didn't like the look, and then draw back on it so I can go back to it. You know what I mean? The drill that I use for the custom work, I got this Neuron right here, and then God Hand drill bits. These are so dope. I definitely recommend those. Those came in clutch, and they're so strong. I have a Display set, and it's definitely not as good as the God Hand. I'll just put it like that. Introductory hand drill set, maybe the Display, but I would just save my money, and I would go straight for the God Hand, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? But that's how I kind of work it in my head. I always save for probably either the second or the first tier stuff. It's because, quality is going to come over anything. Quality is going to also match longevity, and I would rather pay for that instead. So there you go. There goes all the custom armor work, all of the tools that I used, the plot plates, everything that went into this. Obviously, the Tamiya, cement was helpful, and the wiring hooks, and then I just pulled a bunch of random HDMI cords from my house that I had stored away, and just kind of wired this fool up. You know what I'm saying? So that's where you got this guy. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to the paint process. Now, this was gonna be a little bit different because I've weathered other kits before, and if you guys have checked out the Gundam Dynamis entry that I did for another competition, that was like a heavy weathering, and that was based on the lore of the story that I was trying to create. So this guy being special ops, there needed to be a very much controlled weathering format that I needed to stick to, and that was a learning experience in itself, because whenever you're doing it, if you've ever weathered before, you don't want to overdo it, right? But sometimes whenever you're looking at it, you're like, is it enough? And then you end up overdoing it. And I had to always catch myself and say, is it enough? And whenever I would say, is it enough? I would stop. I would actually just pull back. I wouldn't do anything. And I would just take a look at it, or I sit for a couple minutes and kind of let it be. Yeah, so as far as weathering is concerned, I got all of my shout out to my local hobby store, High Desert Hobbies. They're super dope, super friendly people, and I actually picked up all my paints from them. All of my, I use rattle can spray paint. I know I don't got to airbrush yet, y'all. All right, we're moving in that direction, but it's not happening right now. You feel me? Rattle can spray paint, and then I matched colors with the rattle can spray paint. Tamiya, I believe, yeah, Tamiya, with hand painting Tamiya paints, acrylic paints. So painted the whole kit. This is also the first time that I've painted a kit in this color scheme, so this was a little bit weary to me. I thought that it might look too flat, and at one point it did. Never really worked with grays before, but once I applied the gray color theme. He's gray, Black Ops. Obviously, I don't need to spend too much time on that. But I actually added another gray. So there was only 2 grays for the primary and secondary colors for the armor. And then I added a third gray, which was what was it? Dang it. It was Phantom Gray. It was a Phantom Gray. And that's whenever it like pulled in and it looked great. So I had like a gunship gray for the inner frame. Then I added the IJN gray for the primary color, gunmetal grays tacked on there throughout the weathering, and the Phantom gray. You guys hear Danger Daughter in the back? And then that's where it was. And once I added that Phantom gray, I thought, all right, cool, this is where we're going with this kit. And then obviously matte black and black for those other darker tones. And then whenever we get to the weathering philosophy... All right, so now we're going to get into the weathering philosophy. So I wasn't going to go too heavy. The idea is that he's Black Ops, so most of that weathering is going to be from the feet up to the waist. And as you can see here, there's a lot of that weathering from the feet up to the waist. I used the sponge technique. I used a black, and I used a gunmetal dry brush, and another tone of, I think, IJN gray, just to kind of pull out some of those different colors. And I made sure that work was going to be more controlled too when I got up to the waist, because he's Black Ops. He's not encountering too many battles. He's far range, taking care of high value targets, and then he's dipping. You know what I'm saying? So he goes unseen. And so the weathering is on the feet up to the waist is just more of him like running through urban zones or running, and kicking up that dust. Then whenever you got up to the waist, it kind of dies down a little bit. And then where the philosophy gets a little bit more controlled, and that's why there's not, weathering all over the place, is the idea behind him, right? So if he is that special operations unit, the dust, the feet, the contact that he has with the ground when he's prone or when he's, firing in a squatted position, whatever the case may be, he's going to have that weathering on his knees, etc. But as you get up, he's not going to have as much weathering up on top. So what I did was I weathered some parts of the right part of his chest to signify that that's where the rifle touches him whenever he's aiming down sight. So there's a little bit of weathering on that chest piece. And then there's some weathering on, obviously his hands, right? If he's prone or hitting against buildings or whatever the case, his environment. And then on his elbows a little bit, and then on his shoulders a little bit. Primarily on the back of his shoulders, because if he's leaning against walls, right, he's going to get those scratches on the back of his shoulders. And so there's a little bit more weathering on there. So that type of weathering is what I wanted to tell that story. And so this was that very much so controlled process where feet, legs, thighs, a little bit up on the, his weight or his crotch area, none on the waist because, that's not there anymore. That weathering on the right part of the chest, because that's where that rifle is going to kind of, when he's pulling up, it's going to kind of rub against. There's a little bit of weathering on the left, but not too much, just to signify maybe he's pulling it this way, right? He's dropping it down. He's holstering on the back, pulling his sidearm, right? So there's a little bit of weathering to tell that story about where he's pulling those weapons from, shoulders, etc. Not too much weathering on the head. He doesn't get any contact there. There's just little bitty touches here and there. As far as weathering is concerned, here's some of the stuff that I used for weathering. I used the Tamiya kind of weathering. This one is snow, soot, and rust. I only used soot. I didn't use rust or snow, only soot. This was to mimic him on the ground, dust kicking up. On his feet, I used light grayish. And then I also have another one that I didn't pull out, but it's an orchard, I think is what it is, like a brown, and that's for his feet. That was to mimic him walking on dirt or something of that sorts. I have exhaust wash from AK. Let's see it. Exhaust wash from AK. This was to, obviously mimic some of that exhaust on the back of him and his thrusters. Turbine wash as well. And then I also have a natural gray wash from AK that I used also. And all of that was in concentrated spots. So that way, it wasn't like overpowering. So concentrated spots on those areas for weathering. And then I think that was pretty much it. All the other paints, like the metallics, the gunmetal, the stuff like that I used, they were Tamiya acrylic. Let me see if I can grab it real quick. Yeah, so it was essentially this stuff. Tamiya acrylic paint. Yeah, and it was all sorts of gray tones. I had a clear, I had smoke, metallics, things like that. All right, cool. So there goes the weathering philosophy and, how it turned out. And then now the last thing I'm going to be talking about is the diorama. So I always like to add a diorama in some way because I feel like it brings that story together. So in a way for me to communicate with the judges that this guy is covert ops and he's doing like secret missions, I ended up wanting to do a rooftop exfil. So I'll do a roundabout of this as well. But if you guys can see back here, the AC unit on the roof. So this is plot plate. I think it's like 1 millimeter plot plate. I went ahead, I primed it, and then let me see. I'll move this guy real quick. I primed it. I painted it with some of those grays that you can see. So there we go. Some of those grays that you can see, and then I did like a neutral gray wash on it as well, so you guys can see that. This right here is a backpack from an HG kit. I believe it's like a ground unit. I forgot, and I ended up turning it into an AC unit. Grabbed some wiring, some plot plate, put it up there. Tubing right here that I used a lighter to bend it. Yeah, and then plot plate at the bottom of it for its base, anchored into the roof of this space. Some wires. Yeah, just kind of made that AC unit. Right here is the beacon. So a part of the diorama that was, I'm kind of creating this environment. And so there's this AC unit to represent that he's on a roof. Then I have this recall beacon, which is for him to get picked up by HQ. And it has a couple of different settings on it. There you go. So it like blinks green. I ended up dipping the tip of this light inside of clear green paint, and that's where I got that green from. I'm gonna turn it off. There we go. And there's a little bit of soot, as you can see, to mimic that he stepped here, right before he's positioned here for the diorama. And then the last little touch for the diorama was a single casing. So the casing was held in his hand. There was a different hand that was holding it. This is just for display purposes, but there was another hand that was holding his, this guy over here. In this hand, there was a casing that he was looking down at. And if you guys had seen the reel on my Instagram, or if not, or on my shorts, you'll see the casing in his hand. It represents that he went in for a high value target. He terminated the high value target. He picked up the casing that he used, and then he deployed his beacon, and now he's leaving. So that's where that idea came into play. The LED I got at my local hobby shop, it was like $5. It had 49, I think, or something different lights on it. And I just cut all the other ones off and I used just the one. And then I dipped that full in clear green and then called it a day. So that's where you got that from. And then that's pretty much it on this build. And if you haven't seen the short that I did, I'm going to go ahead and play that right now. But this is the story that I wanted to portray with Ghostline. That's what we're calling him, Ghostline. E.F.S.F Special Operations Asset. And so super excited about this. Love the build, love the learning, love the community, all of the ideas and comments and everybody that was showing love on Instagram. Really appreciate you guys. If you guys are watching and you're tuning in and you stuck around this long, thank you guys for checking it out this whole way through. I really, really appreciate it. If there's anything that you would like to know, or you have any comments or questions, or you have any references, please shoot them in the comments down below, because I'm always down to grow and learn. The reel was super dope. It was actually inspired. The filming was inspired by Jason Bourne, or The Bourne Identity. That movie, if you guys haven't seen it, super dope. And I like that, the way that it was filmed. And so I kind of took some of that component and added it to this short that you're going to see shortly. And shout out to Danger Wife, because she was the one that was doing voiceover for Command. And then your boy's doing voiceover for Ghostline. So I hope you guys enjoy.
Ghostline. Confirm visual.
Visual confirmed.
High value target. Rooftop, Sector 3. Wind stable. You are clear.
Copy.
You have one shot.
One is enough.
Status.
Target neutralized.
Proceed to extraction.
Beacon deployed.
Signal received. Window is live.
No trace. Moving.
All right, y'all, that's going to be it for today. Thank you guys so much for rocking with your boy. If you have any comments or questions, please hit me down below in the comment section. If you don't follow me on IG, go ahead and do that, because that's where all of the, stuff that's kind of live and happening live is happening. And yeah, definitely looking forward to more community building, more building and growing in this space. So other than that, I'll see you guys on the next one.